I'm here with Andy today. I'm looking at the picture that you guys chose for the podcast, and I'm waiting until somebody mentions my broken nose. Church camp, 8th grade, headbutt, pick up basketball.
Shut the front door.
Yep.
Headbutt?
Yeah, I have to like look up in the air for you to see it, but it was good. There was
I don't
just
do
like
good with like pain and stuff. Like I don't. So
I remember it was
headbutt-
like shocking. It was an
headbutt-
accident.
Okay.
We're just getting after it, and I go see this like part-time. I guess I thought he was a doctor at the time. But I looked back and it was
anytime the first words to describe a medical professional are part-time,
yeah,
the story is not going to end well.
Yeah, I definitely felt like he was a professional at the time, but true, he was trying to help me out. He was like, "Yeah, this is bad," and we just left it. And so that's what life. You just kind of.
I've never noticed,
Get some
and I don't
wounds.
really want to notice because I
Thank you.
get squirmy about that stuff.
All right. I'm excited to unpack today concepts. So in our training, we talk about within meetings, you need to have concepts and strategies because the goal is to be generous. You want to leave an impression on a prospect or a client that the purpose there wasn't to sell them on something. It was to learn more about their situation and add value as quickly as possible. And through doing this for years now and teaching it for years, there's concepts which are teachable moments. They're gifts you can give your client that for the rest of their life, they will take that idea and it'll hopefully help them make better choices forever. And then there's strategies, which are specific ideas that can help their situation that you can quantify. You know, hey, if you fund this account or if you take this tax write-off, it'll benefit you this month. So as we unpack these with a lot of advisors, you had the great idea today to like, let's dive into one really deep to where for you, as you're listening, like our hope is you take and start using this tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Like, and the concept is called the investment decision filter.
Now, I will say this. I had not heard of, and most of our advisors had never heard of the investment decision filter. And we've got people that have been in the business for 30, 40 years. I mean, these are veterans of the industry. And yet all of them had never heard of the investment decision filter as a concept. There's a 3-bucket strategy. There's, making it up the mountain and down the mountain. Yep. There's a timeline of money. These are well-known concepts within the industry. So why don't people know about the investment decision filter, Sten?
Because I made it up.
Yes.
I love it. That's right. Good setup there.
Thank you. But
I love at our event that I love asking that question because my hope is nobody has
so
said
rhetorical.
yes
It
yet.
sounds so rhetorical. Oh, it would be awkward if someone did say yes, though.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe they did. They meant it in a nice story.
Now they can't. Now they listen to the podcast. But yes, that you set it up well and you go, how do you do it? You say,
when I'm with a client or somebody else, say, have you heard of the investment decision filter before? It's great because I know the answer should be no. And to this date, no one's ever said, of course I know what that is. Well, because I made it up. So It's nice when you have concepts, especially if you're going to be curious and, there's a chance somebody's heard of some of these things that you kind of know going into it. It's going to be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So this is one as we unpack it together today. I want you to hear the concept because there's other ones that you probably already use that you can maybe teach a little deeper, nuance a little more for yourself. But also don't be afraid to come up with something is valuable, put a name to it, and start teaching it.
I think that's the first thing we want you to know is that there's a difference between concept and strategies. You need to be using both in your strategy sessions. That concepts, and we'll go into some more nuance of this, of the power of concepts. But the first thing is you should be using both of those. And the second is that you can make up your own. And, they need to be true. Yeah. But these are guiding principles that help your prospect or client make decisions. Right. It is a concept. It's a larger idea, and it's usually not quantifiable. But I would say that a lot of advisors skip over this because they feel like it's too basic. It's, again, it sort of it can be assumed. Oh, what's the real value in it? Mm-hmm. But there's tremendous value.
Yeah, sometimes the downside to being an advisor is that you know too much. That our minds are filling in the gaps. They're always using these same words, and that's why it's great when you're at events. Sometimes Andy will be the only non-advisor in the room, and he can give us a perspective on like you've used that word 4 times. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
and so a concept can be difficult for advisors because we have to slow down.
Yeah,
where a true unpacking or explanation of, say, the 3-bucket approach is not only, hey, there's 3 ways to invest money, or here are the type of accounts in there, but like, why does this matter to the client?
Yeah.
Because really that's all a client is coming in. Like, they care about themselves.
Yeah. We're going to dig into the investment decision filter, but here's an example of the level of simplicity you need to get to sometimes with the 3 buckets, because you've got tax-free, tax-deferred, and taxable.
Yep.
And if someone was willing to really, truly be honest, they would be like, why can't we put everything in the tax-free? I like that one. You know, like that's a valid question. And I think it's healthy as an advisor to say, now it would be great if we could put everything in the tax-free, and we can, and there's vehicles for that, but we can't because, you know, taxes are a real thing.
Yep.
Like that's a healthy 5-second sort of byline to say, and then you get back on track, right?
Yep. And these should take practice. Our hope is at the end of this that we're going to prompt you. We're going to give you this one, start using it tomorrow, that you would also sit and think like, what are some other ones I seem to bring up a lot that I'm probably just speaking out to a client that visually they don't understand it or see it. They're maybe just trusting I'm doing it, which is fine until they get with another advisor or see it somewhere else better and realize, like, why didn't I ever know that? Yeah. And you're sitting there in your mind saying, I've told you that 100 times. Well, you didn't tell them the right way because they didn't remember it.
So we're going to walk through the investment decision filter and the idea of a concept. And what I would encourage you to do, if you go to stenmorgan.com/podcast, there's a form on there. And if you have a concept that you teach, and if you think, oh, they already know it, don't assume that.
Yeah.
We were at an event in Vegas 3 weeks ago, and someone drew up a concept, and I went, that's really good.
Yeah.
And now we're taking it and we're refining it within our community and making it better.
Yeah. No, we'd love to hear any kind of creative ideas you guys have, what you use. That makes us all better.
Yeah. So again, concepts, they help your client make informed decisions, and you want your client to make informed decisions, right? You want them to make decisions. And then the other thing about these
Can I jump in real quick? Yeah. That is true. From an advisor business owner standpoint, there is an additional benefit to doing this well in a meeting is you're creating rapport, which helps people make choices faster.
Yeah.
And so if your goal of meeting with prospects is for them to actually do business with you, it'd be great if we were running a nonprofit education company and we just told people things all the time. When you meet with somebody, if you give them this kind of experience and you teach them and you're at a whiteboard, compare that to the average advisor experience of sitting down and just talking to them and then getting them to buy something. This will help you close more business
quicker.
Because you're generous, you're educating, you're an authority. They will take action faster if you do this well.
So you want to do this early. You know, you're really good at this of, hey, let's use this as a way to consider all the options we're going to talk about. It puts them at ease. It puts you on the same sort of level playing field. So you want to make sure you use concepts early, and you want to talk about this before you talk about the other things, because it gives you a frame of reference, right? For is this good or bad? Because they probably are going to come in with these preconceived notions of these different things and their value. And I love it because it proves itself. That's one of the cool things about the filter is it works towards itself in a really cool way.
Yep. So what we teach is you want to try to get up to the whiteboard within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the meeting. There's small talk, you know, if somebody referred them to you, how do you know John or Jane? But your goal is like, how do I add value right away? How do I stand up, raise the energy in the room? And so I'm meeting with a prospect. I'll usually ask them something about how do you feel about your financial plan? Do you feel that your plan's creative? Do you potentially feel like your financial plan is just a collection of things you've bought over time?
Yeah.
These are all questions that almost universally people are like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I'm then able to say to them, I think you're going to love this. I use this line to set up the whiteboard a lot. Have you ever heard of the investment decision filter? And so you need to practice the flow. When does this make sense? But as soon as you can, you need to get up and teach them something.
Yeah.
So when I stand up, and again, universally to this point, no one's ever said, of course, I've heard of that. It's great. Maybe that'll happen in the future, and that'll be great. I don't know if I'll get some royalties on that term being passed around the industry. I'll jump up to the whiteboard. And when you're on a whiteboard, try not to write full, long words out. People don't want to stare at the back of your head too long. So I'll say investment decision filter, IDF, underline it. And I will say for the rest of your life, whether you work with me or someone else, you need to run every investment decision you ever make through this filter. And this filter has 4 components: performance, risk, taxes, and fees. And they're tracking with me at this point. Okay. Forever, we need to consider these 4 things. Then I want to give them a little context. And so I'll tell them, for example, would you be willing to pay a higher fee? And at this point, sometimes I'll write an up arrow. Would you be willing to pay a higher fee if an investment had great performance, low risk, and had really low tax impact? Well, of course I would.
I like that.
So we're saying that fees are not the only reason we should make an investment decision. Great.
I love it you start with that one because That's the one a lot of advisors are afraid. Like, that's the F word in the meeting, the fee, right?
And they're thinking it. They may not bring it up, but they're still thinking about it. Like, we need to kind of get it out there. Like, this should be something
I just love it. You go there
consider
first. Like, so we agree that fees aren't the only thing to consider.
Yeah, but they matter because they're on the list.
Yeah.
I'll then continue to kind of give them examples to make sure they understand the context. I'll say, what if the past performance of an investment was really good, but the risk was way higher than you wanted? It impacted your taxes a lot, and the fees were really high. How would you feel about that? That wouldn't feel great. Okay, so you're also saying past performance is not the only reason we'd want to make a decision. And so what's great about this tool is you get to decide what examples you use to explain it, but you are putting a line in the sand. You are establishing a frame of reference with them early on, and try to write this maybe at the top left-hand board of the column of the board, because you're going to write other things on the whiteboard, but that might be something you want to reference back to.
Yeah.
This is a gift. There are people I know that I've walked this through that 10 years from now, they will still remember it.
Yeah.
I didn't overcomplicate it, but it was enough for them to be like, oh, what are the 4 things that he was talking about that we should consider? Nuance. This is us kind of workshopping it. I'm thinking about adding time as a 5th element to it, because how much time an investment consume, especially with like real estate professionals or business owners.
I wasn't going there with your time. I was thinking of time as how long it takes to, because that's probably return. That's probably performance. So time is how much time it takes you, your personal.
Yeah, because that's an asset. Most of us, especially the business owners we work with.
Yeah.
That if I said, hey, here's a great investment, amazing performance, it's great for your taxes, but it requires 10 hours a month of your time to manage it, whether it's startup business, whether it's a piece of real estate. There are people that we work with now that are like, that's great, Sten, but I don't have the time to do that.
Absolutely. That's not worth my time.
Yeah. So I haven't actually, just as we workshop this together on the podcast, folded that into kind of the actual meeting.
Yeah.
But I think there will be clients that I'm with that is kind of the flow and the feeling, especially business owners, people that are so consumed. At times when I preemptively tell them, hey, it's really important we don't get you saying yes to more things.
Yeah.
I think a skill that if we work together, if we help you start saying no to good things and only say yes to great things, I think that would be really beneficial. Almost every time they're like, you get it.
Yeah. I'm not in your meetings. That would be awkward. That's just he's just going to study us. But I know that in your meetings with business owners that you will have like the businesses listed in the middle, and then on one side like the return, and the other side is time. Because I know that you've had some conversations with our advisors about business owners want to see. Sometimes the greatest value you can provide is just the outside perspective of like, okay, Mary, it looks like you've got 2 businesses, and this one is producing 80% of your income and it's taking, 20% of your time. And this one over here is creating 20% of your income and it's like, what's like, and they're like, oh, why do I do, like, why do I spend so much time on so what if you stop doing that one? Yep. Like, what could you give to that one? Right. So that's some essentialism. That's some, time management stuff. But where do you think what's an example of an investment or a strategy or a product, or is it them buying a business? Like, is it one of their businesses are running that they say, hey, no, my friend wants to sell me, and this has happened to a friend of mine. I think I want to buy a donut shop. And I know somebody who did this, right? But do you know what time you make donuts?
Very early.
Like 2 a.m. till like 6 a.m. so that they're fresh. And if you own the donut shop and no one can make the donuts, guess who makes the donuts? You do, because you own the shop. And I was watching a comparison this other day. Someone was talking about real estate versus they had a friend, and at the very same time they were going to look at getting into real estate, another friend was going to buy, I don't know what kind of shop it was. I think it was a yogurt shop. And they said, I'm so glad I didn't buy the yogurt shop. The dollars looked better on the yogurt side, but guess what happened when people didn't show up? Guess what happened when you had to order products?
Wasted product, yeah.
It was just the complexity of it, and complexity equals time. So I do think that can be another one that could be added to it, because if people just go, oh, that sounds great. Now it's going to take 10 hours a week, and they're like, whoa.
Yeah, I can't do that. And I think where this jumped out to me as I look back is I'd meet with people that loved real estate. And real estate has this general sense. Most people would say real estate's a good investment.
Sure.
But all advisors listening, we know people that have done real estate the wrong way and lost a bunch of money. So it's not a foolproof investment. But I've met with clients and they give me the spreadsheet, and they'll have 5 investment properties, 10 investment properties. And I'll go through, and usually what they're looking at is like the cash flow. based on how much I had to buy this house for and how much income I get, that's my rate of return. Very rarely do they remember to back out all the expenses to maintain it. And so quickly, a 15% rate of return can turn into like an 8% rate of return. And then if you can compare it to some passive investment they have, and this has happened before, I'm like, okay, over here you made about 7%. With your real estate, you made 8%. Over here, you spent no time. Over here, you spent a lot of time. There comes a point, and I've seen this light bulb in people's minds of like, even though there's a better return, that I'm frustrated because of how much time it took me to get that much more.
Yeah.
I'm okay not getting that.
Yeah.
And I think the more reps I've had of that, it's like people realize time's important. And so when it comes to real estate business owners, I think there's an element of this filter that can factor in time. Mm-hmm. I just need some more reps with it.
Yeah. So as you look at this, what are some other examples of things that you could put in front of people that, and this is one of the things I love about specifically the investment decision filter, is that you can then be presenting some idea to someone in a strategy session and say, does that make sense? Yep, good. Okay. Now, so they could even be tracking with you and feel good. It's like, now, let's put it through the investment decision filter and see how it does. Mm-hmm. And one of the great things about the investment decision filter is it's not, I don't know if it's ever going to be, they're all good.
That's right.
Like almost everything has some downside.
That's right.
And it's like, but when you say that, like if you're going to sell a super expensive sports car, you're not going to be like, well, listen, the insurance is cheap and the maintenance is cheap. Like, you know, people know that there's some negatives, but if the positives outweigh the negatives and you go, I'm in.
That's right.
So what are some other things that you could apply? And maybe some of them are very simple. Maybe some of them are complex. That you can apply the investment decision filter to in a way that is helpful or just sparks conversation or gets past. I think this is a cool way to get past objections that people might have.
Yeah, you can preempt some objections. That's why I started with fees, past performance. These are things usually people could get hung up on. And I'm not saying they're not true. I'm just providing a context of like, we all agreed up front that we're not going to get hung up on any one of these things. These decisions are a little more complicated than that. But I like to present it to the prospect or even the client is this can apply to everything. No matter what you do with your money, if you're looking to buy a car, if you're looking, can you deduct the car? Okay, you can't deduct the car. And so actually it's, kind of more expensive from a tax standpoint because you're having to use after tax dollars to do it. Yeah. The taxes are kind of high. It feels good, and so you may say from an investment decision filter standpoint, this is not a good investment. You may still do it because it's a lifestyle choice, which is fine. But it's helpful for me as an advisor to have this tool to reference because it's less about, hey, don't do that because I don't make money. You should buy this thing because I make more. I'm establishing rules that now allow me to say, hey, that thing you're doing probably isn't a good investment. And I recommend against it. But if you do it, we agreed that it's not a good investment, yet you're still choosing to do it. Yeah. Whereas Sten in the past as an advisor was just kind of, well, you could do that, but what about this? Hey, let's do the thing that involves me that I get paid on. But I hadn't established a set of rules with the client that we agreed to on what things we will do and what things we won't do. Yeah. It's kind of an investment policy statement, which in our world is getting a client to agree to, here's the risk we're comfortable with, here's the time horizon, and then that helps us filter. Yeah. I think that's still necessary, but this is kind of a baby step in that direction that I think most people realize, like, yeah, I agree that all those things should be considered and not one of them should dominate the decision. Yeah. Has this ever helped you keep someone from doing something you're like, oh boy, don't, I'm going to take all my cash and put it into this. And you're like, you know what? Let's put this through the filter. I haven't developed it to that degree. I do think there's a version of this to where we create some kind of piece to where, maybe it's in the client's folder and we continuously reference. That's probably just more of like a process solve. Yeah. Now it's more of this cool thing Sten pulls out on the whiteboard in a meeting when it feels right. And I use it a lot in initial meetings. Sure. I just wonder if there's, and again, as advisors, who are listening, it may also help you have a more, I guess, I don't know if the right word is objective, sort of like, well, I'm not going to just say no to that, but let's put it through the filter. And they're like, oh yeah, I didn't realize the risk was that high. Yeah. Or, yeah, if anybody listening turns this into a cool PDF or visual, share it with us. Yeah. Because I think there's a version of this where maybe it goes in the client folder and it's laminated. And we say, okay, before you do anything ever, we can't be there with you all the time, but we're sending you away with this thing as a way of retraining the way you're making financial decisions. That could be cool. Yeah. But our hope as you're listening today is that this is sparking one, maybe you know how you're going to use this and how you're going to create rapport with prospects and clients, but also what other ones you're using that you need to refine. And if you're saying, Sten, that's cool, I want to use that one, but I have no other ones, trust yourself that if you sit in a quiet room for an hour and you can sit in kind of like, I have no ideas, what am I going to do? Those ideas will come.
Yeah.
That you're already doing some of this stuff in the course of being an advisor. You're probably just in your mind diminishing the value, but you need to workshop it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate what you said as we wrap up about you're probably diminishing its value, because to you as an advisor, that filter's already built into you. Mm-hmm. Like you recognize, yeah, there's fees, but my gosh, look at the guaranteed income you get through retirement or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're going fees. And you're like, okay, but you know what I mean? So you already have that filter sort of built in. This mm-hmm. is about equipping, empowering, educating your potential consumer to make really good decisions.
That's right.
And get past objections even before they come necessarily. Yeah, which is really, really exciting. And it empowers them to go then make other decisions with you again and again and again, which is ultimately what you want. Mm-hmm. And as you said at the very beginning, this is a gift. This is a gift you give a prospect or a client that will bless them, but also bless you, because it allows you to do business with them in a way that, frankly, most advisors aren't taking this step.
Yeah. And I think you've said in the past, a confused mind says no. If we're going on passing illustrations and talking about investment portfolios without any foundational teaching or coaching to equip them to make that decision more confidently, we're going to end up with clients that are just kind of, I guess I'll do it, but I'm not really confident. Why did we do that? So a little preparation here will help avoid future frustrations from clients, all these extra questions, because we're just leaving this gap of understanding for them that we can really bridge quite easily.
Awesome. Great stuff.